Loving wisely. Loving wisely is a phrase that I have adopted from Shakespeare's Othello. At the end of the play, Othello was asked how he should be represented to the public. And he goes on several points, and out of which one point is, you have to report to the public in this way about me. Here is a man who loved too well, but not wisely. And then he killed himself after this soliloquy. Loving wisely is the phrase that really caught my attention, and also it has the stamp of Shakespeare. Loving too well, but not wisely. I thought that this would help a lot of people in their relationship situation. But by relationship, I mean only the gender relationship. Because most people do not love wisely. Why? Because love itself is associated with emotions and the senses, and they are very powerful. And then they are victims to the senses and the emotions generated by the senses, especially in the case of teenagers, but not limited to teenagers, because I have seen people, even 70-year-old, falling in love and then not loving wisely. So what do you mean by loving wisely? When you are in love, or when you love somebody, you have to ask yourself several questions, fully knowing that this is a hot afire that needs to be checked, because heart can go wrong, because it's based on emotions. Am I getting anything out of this relationship? Not necessarily financial gain, which often happens to be the case. Am I getting anything like social status or a learning situation, or what do I really get out of this relationship? Is a question that everyone has to ask, apart from the common answer, yes, I feel great in the company of this person, I feel fulfilled, I feel meaningful, and also people always say, I love that person. But when you just push that person, what do you mean by love? Whether it is just a carnal desire that you have, or is there anything beyond that carnal desire? If you can only answer this question, if it is just tied only to carnality or a dependency, so you are lonely and then you just go and then make a wrong decision, and that again is part of carnality and part of emotional fulfillment. But if it is going to be a long-term thing, then one has to really ask this question, well, am I loving wisely? But if you just do statistics on it, then you will find that most people don't love wisely. And then they end up in hurting each other, or at least one person really gets deeply hurt. So before you start a relationship, or while you are in a relationship too, it is important to ask this question, am I loving wisely? Because Shakespeare has done a lot of research in relationship. Because even in Othello, Othello is going to murder Desdemona. And before that, he goes and there is a soliloquy where Desdemona is sleeping, but she wakes up. And as soon as he wakes up, and he goes on asking her, if you bethink yourself of any crime and reconcile as it heaven and grace, solicit it straight. I used to act as Othello when I was in college. So I remember the passage. If you bethink yourself of any crime and reconcile as it to heaven and grace, solicit it straight. So what is the crime? If you have done any crime now, ask for forgiveness from God. That's what Othello is saying. And it is the love that I have towards you is the crime. If at all I have done any crime, Othello, Desdemona says, it is the love that I have, cherished for you. So it is the love that Desdemona understands it. It is the love that really made her to love him. Because even the king, when the king asked Desdemona right away, how can you fall in love with this man who is not very attractive, he's a Moor? I loved him for the dangers he passed through. This is Desdemona's answer to the king. I loved him for the dangers he passed through. So it is a very romantic love that she had. And she kind of saw Othello's face in his heart, not the physical appearance. I was not falling for physical appearance. It's a romantic love. So I'm talking about all these things because most people can relate to this. So I'm loving this person not because I know that he has no money or she has no money. I know that he or she has a short temper. I know this he or she doesn't have a future. But still my heart goes for this person. And that's where the problem starts. So this is a case of loving too well, but not wisely. So that is the lesson. There is another play of Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra. Antony is a jealous lover, like Othello is. Shakespeare has a lot of jealous lovers because he was an expert in sexual jealousy between two people. And Antony keeps asking her, Desdemona, are you thinking about me all the time? And she at one point says, no. And he was upset. How come? Are you thinking about someone else? Okay. No. Because I never forget you. Only when I forget you, I can think about you, because I have it all the time in my mind. Again, at the end of the play, when both are dead, and here is Octavius Caesar comes and then makes a very classic statement about the tragedy of Antony and Cleopatra's death. He says, the world is well lost for love. Look at the word, well lost for love. It was lost, it's losing. But then there is something good about the losing. What is that? It is well lost. The world is well lost for love. So these are all very romantic expressions, because Shakespeare himself was very romantic. We can get into the character and feel it. But then, for practical purposes, you have to ask the question whether you are loving too well or wisely. And then see whether it is just carnality or just the play of emotions and your vulnerable condition. All these things are important questions to ask. And I have more to contribute to people who are in love in terms of counseling, bringing this counseling from different areas. Like, for instance, the karma of love, the karma behind love, in other words. No two people come together without karma supporting it. Karma is the past life. So past life karma is the basis for two individuals coming together. Without it, it will not happen. They have had relationship in a previous lifetime, maybe one or more times, and probably they terminated it without a proper closure, and then they came back to continue with that. And this is the law of karma. So why is anybody is attracted to anybody else? Because you may be wondering in some cases how this beautiful woman can fall in love with this man who is very unattractive, just in Othello's case. But the vice versa is true too. The only answer is karma. But having said that, the question is, do we necessarily have to go through this karmic relationship forever? There are two answers to these questions. One, if it is supported by good karma and there is still learning in a positive direction and it is not hurting you, then you should continue with that karma. Not necessarily, but there, you still can continue. But if it is hurting, then that's another matter. Then the second question is, can this karmic relationship be terminated? By all means. Usually karma implies time also. Every relation is time bound. Not only in this lifetime, but over a period of many lifetimes as well. So you are going to be with this person karmically for say 10 years, it will be 10 years unless you interfere. So you can interfere. So I often say that, instead of just going through this karmic relationship every day, a battle, for 10 years, just end in 10 months. And then even better if it is 10 days, depending upon how powerful, how resolute, how decisive you are. So karma is reversible. It's hard, but then the human will is very powerful, and also your own ability to analyze and then be wise are criterion. The criterion is be wise. Loving wisely is very important. Now I can love wisely, but then there won't be any romance in it. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. You can love wisely and then be romantic and then there will be a full expression of your heart and soul and emotions, all these can go. Who said that they are mutually exclusive? It's not. So that is an excuse for you to to continue with the relationship without analyzing. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the world is organized around the legal norms. Okay. At the end of the day, there, if you are married, it's going to be a divorce, and then it has to be decided in a court of law. Or otherwise, if children are involved, then there is a custody battle. Or if you are very rich people, again, their law plays a very important role, in which, the rich man always had the prenuptial agreement. So that, you can see, practicality versus emotional and irrational decision, emotional and irrational decision. So you can have romance and you can also be wise. See, that is the one thing that I want to repeat over and over again, is can have romance and also you can be wise. They are not mutually exclusive. That is the key message for this webcast. But if you don't do it, you will be in trouble. Now what about, somebody asked, a divine relationship? I don't understand what the questioner means by a divine relationship. Unless it also comes under the category that I mentioned before, you just come back karmically to learn something from the other person. If the other person is not contributing to that, then it is not going to work. Now, there is another element or dimensions to this question, divine relationship, particularly in the context of what is called a tantric relationship. Tantra is a branch in both Hinduism and Buddhism, where they use sexual practice for liberation. And I don't want to go into it because this is the most misunderstood and unfortunately the most notorious practice that's going on all over the Western world, at least. And I just want to answer this question very briefly by alluding to remarks made by a very, very learned person and who had great following and who also, in a large way, an authority on Tantra. And he is Osho. People asked Osho, because Osho promoted tantric sex, and then that way he became so notorious, and also he paid very heavily for his radical teachings. Periodically, he kept on saying, although I talk a lot about Tantra, because his first book was From Sex to Superconsciousness, and that made him same time famous and notorious. And he told people periodically, even towards the end of his life, none of you guys here, thousands of people here, none is practicing Tantra. You are practicing sex. This was his answer. So I don't want to go any more than that, just to make you understand the difference between a profane sex versus a tantric sex. Because in the divine context, it is a practice that is a meditation in which you balance the male and the female within your own body, because your own body, although it is just male or female outwardly, but then there is an inner male and an inner female within everybody's body. And the purpose of Tantra is just to experience that harmony between the inner body so that everybody becomes an androgyne. When you are an androgyne, then there is no need to go and engage in completing your own lack of the other gender. Because according to Plato, who is quoting Socrates, why are the male and female looking for each other? And it is in the symposium. They are looking for each other because in the beginning there were only one androgyne. And then there was an angry god, and then this god just split them into two halves, and then the male became one half, and then the other became the other half. And then ever since that time, they are looking for the missing link. That is at least Plato's interpretation of why there is a gender attraction. Okay, eventually, at the end of the day, what you are going to end up with is the question: am I loving wisely? Loving wisely is also living wisely. So the bottom line is being wise. And if you are not there, then you are going to be hurt. So it's a choice. Because I know that everyone is driven by karma, a karmic relationship, and also driven by the senses, driven by the youth. When you are young, then the hormones are very active, and then you are not wise definitely at that point. Then this creates a lot of problems. Now I'm going to talk about the solutions. This will take me to my recent teachings on timeline jumping. So I'm going to be teaching courses on timeline jumping for relationship. Remember, timelines are as many as possible. They are all available simultaneously, but people do not want to look at more than one timeline. By timeline, I mean destiny. There is one destiny in relationship with this person. But there are so many available out there. So just going and grasping it is the other timeline jumps, that they are also the principle is loving wisely or selecting or choosing wisely is very important. So that will help you to solve a lot of not only headache but heartaches also. Then a final point that I want to make about this loving wisely webcast is the role of astrology. Astrology plays a very important role in the manifestation of karmic relationship. If we are going to start a very bad planetary period or a planetary transit, it can be planetary period is, let's say, for instance, Saturn, Dasa, which is for 20 years, 20 or 19 years. And then there is the transit of Saturn into your zodiac, which is again 2.5 years. And if you are going to start a relationship at that time, it is usually a karmic relationship. Got to be careful about that. So what can you do? You can do remedies for that. This is the reason why I started Astrovid.com, because Astrovid.com is can give you remedies for that, because it is a remedial astrology. Now, there was another question that came, and just remembered just now. What about the love between gods and goddesses? Do they say something to the human beings? They are a paradigm that they are revealing to people. The gods and goddesses have the same paradigm, because if you look at Greek mythology or Roman mythology, you find that the same kind of human problems exist there too. Even in the Hindu context, there is a lot of jealousy, anger, all these things occur. Because the bottom line is that the human beings can only conceive of certain themes and motives that they go through in their lives. So what do we want to do then to love wisely? The most practical advice for you would be to go and look at astrology, because it's a science. It has been proved as a science, at least at the Supreme Court in India. Who gets attracted to who? Astrology, Vedic astrology can tell you. And who is not good for you? Vedic astrology can tell you. What time are you going through now? Is it a time to get into a relationship? Vedic astrology can tell you. And that is where I want to end my presentation on loving wisely. God bless.